Hello and welcome. I'm Mickey Duzdovich, one of the programmers here at the Film Festival. We would like to first start out by thanking our premier sponsor, Lynda.com. Without her and her staff and everybody, none of this would be possible. And we'd also like to thank our hospitality partner, Inn at East Beach. Today we have a wonderful documentary for you. It's a really funny documentary. This is probably one of the most lighthearted and entertaining things we have here at the festival for you this year. Please stick around afterwards for a Q&A with Phil Rosenthal, the star and director of the film. And after all is said and done, everyone will love Phil Rosenthal. Thank you.
The other two have already won Oscars. They have those statues somewhere, and that's Leslie. Raise your hand, Leslie. For Inconvenient Truth, and then Gloria for Terminator. So, pretty good. Okay, so let me just do some quick introductions for those of you that might not know who's sitting up here. To my immediate left is Darla Anderson. Darla has produced Toy Story 3. How many people here have seen it? I hope almost everybody. All right. Well, if you don't know, it is the most successful animated film in history. To date, it has grossed over $1 billion. Darla also is only the seventh. I got a percentage of it. And Darla is only, if I can brag just a little bit more about her, she's only the seventh solo female producer ever nominated for Best Picture. So, Colleen Atwood, to Darla's left, is Oscar nominee and costume designer, as I said, for Alice in Wonderland. Her credits include Philadelphia, Silence of the Lambs, Edward Scissorhands, Beloved, Chicago, Mission Impossible 3, and most recently, The Tourist. Many other credits. These are just some of the ones I listed. Her last Oscar nomination was in 2009 for Nine, and she's also won Oscars previously for Chicago Memoirs of a Geisha. I love this. Colleen, I was looking at your resume, not your resume, but your bio. You started out 30 years ago as a wardrobe assistant. Do you know it's 30 years? I don't think I heard that term. It's pretty good. Okay, then we've got Gloria. Gloria just recently was at Digital Domain, which is an award-winning visual effects and technology company. She was there for a couple of years where she ran the entire feature film production, both for Venice and Vancouver. They have two different facilities. And before that, Gloria worked at DreamWorks Animation, where she oversaw Shrek the Third, Madagascar, and a bunch of other films. And before that, she was head of post over at Revolution, where she oversaw all their post and visual effects. And then before that, 20 years working as VP of Lucas Digital and GM of Skywalker Sound. She oversaw the soundtracks for Saving Private Ryan, Titanic, the first two Toy Stories, and many, many others. So thrilled to have Gloria with us. We have Leslie Chilcott. She's a producer of Waiting for Superman, which is out in theaters now. Inconvenient Truth, as I mentioned, the Obama documentary, and of course my favorite, this great, called It Might Get Loud, about guitars. She has her own company with Davis Guggenheim called Electric Kinney Films, and they produce documentaries. Before she was with Davis, she produced hundreds of commercials, PSAs, and music videos. And last but not least is Alex Madigan. She's currently head of production for Anonymous Content. She's also a producer of Winter's Bone and nominated for her first Oscar, as I mentioned. She previously has produced the cult comedy Smiley Face with Anna Faris, Marie Life with Patricia Clarkson, and Chris Cooper. She did a film called Cleaner, directed by Rennie Harlan, I think a Santa Barbara resident, starring Samuel L. Jackson. She exec-produced Neil LaBute's film Friends and Neighbors, starring Ben Stiller and Natasha Kinski. And 4 years ago, she exec-produced Sunday, which won a bunch of awards at Sundance and Deauville. So that is our panel. So in no particular order, I'd like to take a step back for a second before we talk about the present and certainly the future and what projects we've got. But Gloria, I'm going to start with you and ask if you let's talk a little bit about George Lucas. Was he a mentor? How much do you collaborate with him? I mean, think about it, 20 years working there, and it was one of your first jobs in this business. So tell us how that
and I would have to say, absolutely, George was a mentor. When I started at Skywalker, I was a sound editorial assistant and went through the ranks to be a sound supervisor for about 17 years. And it was during that time, primarily because we were so connected with ILM, we actually worked on some pretty fantastic movies like Terminator 2 and Forrest Gump and all sorts of fantastic sounding films. And George was a mentor because he wanted us to be the best sound company in the world, and he wanted us to get into that level of organic, detailed sound work. Also, Ben Burt was there. There was a whole group of people that he made very special just by giving us great films to work on and having this wonderful company, ILM. So, yeah, George was amazing.
Do you remember that first time you met him? Were you a little bit intimidated?
You know, I think I was, I felt like an obnoxious teenager maybe a little bit. But you know what, I loved meeting George. I also loved meeting Marcia Lucas, who was his wife at the time, because in college she was the picture editor that I was adoring. She just did amazing work for Scorsese and others. So the two of them were quite a combo. And yeah, I mean, George is fantastic.
So Alex, along those same lines, you started your career working for Alan J. Pakula, who did, of course, All President's Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, and a lot of other films. What was that like, and would you consider him a mentor?
You know, I worked for Alan Pakula in it was like 1987, and he had just done Orphans, and he was kind of going into the second phase of his career where he was doing Pelican Brief and all those other kind of movies. He was a really wonderful man, incredibly smart. I really only had women working for him, which I thought was really interesting. His producer was a woman named Susan Salt, who I now think teaches comparative literature somewhere, and Lisa Lindstrom, who ran his story department, and I loved working for him. I don't know if he'd be a classic mentor because for a director to mentor a producer, it's just a different line of business.
But he gave you a shot.
He did.
And that kind of got you going. And Darla, what about you? Did you have someone, because you've been doing this for so long, is there a particular person that gave you a hand early on?
You know, I would say I was really fortunate enough when I started Pixar 18 years ago, it was a really great time. It was a few years before Toy Story came out. And at the time, Steve Jobs had just recently bought Pixar from George Lucas. And at that moment in time, Next had just dissolved his company. And so Steve had a lot of time on his hands. So Steve was at Pixar 40 hours a week.
Oh.
And just right down the hall. And so I had just gotten my first gig producing, I've been doing commercials, and then I got the opportunity from Steve and Lawrence Levy, who was our CFO at the time and brought us public, and Cat Moll, who ran Pixar, and John Lasseter. All these men gave me a big break to go from 30 seconds to producing A Bug's Life. And Steve was amazing. He had everything. He was really amazing, really dynamic. I learned so much from him, and it was also intense.
I bet.
Yeah.
Were you the first to get,
is the movie great yet? I'm like, yeah. Right.
Oh yeah, y'all never let them know. Were you one of the first to get an iPad?
Yes.
I bet you got one.
Can I tell you one quick story?
Of course.
Oh, here's a funny story though. So Steve Jobs, the iPhone, not the iPhone, but the music iPod is coming out. It's during it's a Monsters Incorporated time. And Steve is walking down the hallway, and I say to Steve, wow, you know, he says to me, congratulations on Monsters Incorporated.